Welcome to Great Players of the Past. This is 2018 for you. For you at home in 2020. Okay, so this class is 45 minutes, and by 45 minutes, I mean 40 minutes. Right? Inflation. Today's lecture is on Viktor Korchnoi, okay? And there's a famous book written about him because he didn't like the playing conditions called Korchnoi's Complaint. No? No? There's somebody at home like rolling on the floor laughing now. Yeah, that's a good joke. Okay, I'll explain the joke later, but there's kids here, so I'm not gonna watch it. Okay, so you'll never understand that joke, so it's okay. Yeah. All right, if you understood the joke, I'd be in trouble. He doesn't understand the joke, so I'm good. Yeah. Okay, so Korchnoi is considered by many, and as I'm saying it, I'm like reading it. It's like right here, see? He's considered possibly the best player of all time who is not world champion. Now, I have a lot of personal stories about Korchnoi because I've met him on many occasions. He's no longer alive, so I can say whatever I want about him now. Korchnoi did something that you won't understand, but that he does. Okay, he defected. You want to explain what that means? No. Okay. So it used to be that some countries, and it still happens, if you live there and you want to leave, you can't leave. Like in this country, you can't come here, and they kick you out. But in some countries, you live in the country, and you're like, I want to go to some other country, and they're like, no. Okay? And then if you try to leave, they go, rawr, I'm mad. Okay? Now, this was very common in the former Soviet Union, a country that no longer exists. Right? You heard of it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, when the Soviet Union existed, Korchnoi played for the Soviet Union. Korchnoi didn't want to play for the Soviet Union. So in 1976, I believe, when he was in the Netherlands playing in a chess tournament, he said, I want to defect, I want to leave. And then he's the most famous chess player who defected. And after that, he played for Switzerland, which isn't really good for chess. Well, you can't name, but okay, he played for Switzerland. And maybe he lived in Switzerland, who knows. Then there was a boycott of Korchnoi. It was a soft boycott, confusing you. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have a friend at school, and you go to her birthday party, and she goes to your birthday party, and you have play dates. And then one day, she doesn't want to see you anymore, but she doesn't tell you that. He's like, hey, you want to go hang out? She's like, nah. Then you're like, hey, come to my birthday party. She's like, nah, I'm busy. And then you're like, oh, do you have a birthday party? She's like, well, not really. And then you're like, hey, you want to go to a movie? And she's like, nah. And you just never see her again, right? She doesn't want to see you, but she didn't tell you that. That's what they did with Korchnoi. When Soviet players played in tournaments, Korchnoi wasn't playing. They made sure Korchnoi wasn't playing, then they would play. If Korchnoi was playing, they wouldn't go play in the tournament. He was boycotted. So Korchnoi didn't play Soviet players because they wouldn't play in tournaments with him because he left. They were mad, right? Okay. And I could talk about for 45 minutes Korchnoi defecting, but this is supposed to be about chess. But anyway, Korchnoi beat everybody. And not only that, he beat everybody forever. Most people, once they get to my age, the only people I can beat are you. If I played in world-class tournaments, they say, man, you're old. Okay? Korchnoi played when he was old. In his 40s, in his 50s, in his 60s, and in his 70s. He played international tournaments. And when he was about 70, maybe more than 70, he beat Fabiano Caruana in a game with black. He crushed Caruana. Okay? He was good even when he was really old. Okay? One of my ex-wives, I don't know which one, she drew Korchnoi in a simultaneous exhibition. We'll never know which one it was because I had too many ex-wives. Okay, and I never played Korchnoi. However, before I look at his game, I want to tell you a story, because I like stories. When I worked at the St. Louis Chess Club, approximately 2011, you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah, you were alive then. Barely. Yeah, you. Yeah, you were like, I was alive then? Yeah. He's sort of young. Anyway, the chess club would set up matches. There's been a match of the chess club every year. Okay? That year, the match was Nakamura Ponomaryov. That was the match. And they said, hey, let's have another match like weaker players. And so I worked at the club, so they're like, you're weaker. But I was like, yeah. And they wanted me to play Korchnoi. And Korchnoi said, yeah, okay, that's good, I'll play. So I was going to play a match with Korchnoi. Now, obviously, Korchnoi is a great player, and I'm not, but he was old. So, he's like 75 years old, so I have a chance, right? Okay, then, before the match, about a month before, he hurt himself, and he couldn't travel anymore, and he never left Europe after that. So they had to replace him, because he couldn't come to St. Louis. And they replaced him with Ray Robson. Ray Robson was like 16. So I went from playing a 75-year-old to a 16-year-old. Ray Robson, in the last game of the match, was losing to me. If I had won the game, we tied the match. But instead, I blundered, checkmate, and lost. So I never played Korchnoi ever. I almost played him a match. Instead, I never played him. Darn. Okay, but I saw him a few times. Okay, and then I always tell all of my students, one day they'll listen. If you want to know how good somebody was at chess, don't look at their rating. Don't play them. That's too hard. Look at their Wikipedia article and see how long it is. Whose is longer, Korchnoi's or mine?
Korchnoi's.
Yeah, mine's like that. You can't scroll down. It's like that's it. That's mine. It's like this. Okay, and I can show you. Korchnoi's never ends, which is pretty good considering he was never a world champion, and he still gets a 1,000-page Wikipedia article, right? That's because he was good. Okay, and Korchnoi did something that's very unusual. See, there he's old. See? I would have played him after that, so I had a chance. Korchnoi played world championship matches over and over and over again. Whom did he play? It's always the same guy. No? What? Anybody? No? He played the same guy for the world championship 3 times. Who was it?
Kasparov?
No, not Kasparov. Was before him. Not everything happened 10 minutes ago. Some things happened 30 years ago and 40 years ago. No? It's the one before Kasparov. Between Fischer and Kasparov, right in the middle. Karpov. You heard of Anatoly Karpov? I guess I could do a lecture on him, but he's still alive. So he played a de facto, because you said de facto today, right? Didn't you? He played a de facto world championship match, but not a de jure one, right? That's what you were thinking. And he was thinking Arby's. Okay, in 1974, Korchnoi played Karpov a match, and the winner of that match played Fischer. Did Fischer play? No. And they knew Fischer wouldn't play, because Fischer, even before Fox News existed, was crazy like them. Okay? So whoever won Korchnoi Karpov in 1974, they were going to be the world champion, because Fischer was too crazy to play chess. So Karpov won the match, and then he played Fischer. Fischer refused to play, so Karpov was world champion. In 1978, Karpov played Korchnoi again. And the score, after 31 games, if I remember correctly, was 5-5 with 1 million draws. And actually, it was 5-2. And Korchnoi won 3 games in a row, making it 5-5. When I say 3 in a row, there was a draw in the middle. And then in game 32, Karpov won and retained his title. Then they played again in 1981, and Karpov took him to school. But he picked him up at 3:30. He took him to school. And he beat him 6-2 with some draws. And that was the last match he played for the World Championship. In 1983, Korchnoi played a match with Kasparov in Pasadena, California. Korchnoi won the match because Kasparov didn't show up. They defaulted him because USSR-USA relations weren't very good. And Kasparov was USSR and didn't come. Okay, so then he played in the US Open, which I played in. I was a little kid. I didn't play Korchnoi. And then in 1984, they said, okay, now you play Kasparov in London. And then Kasparov crushed him, and Kasparov became world champion eventually. And that was the end of Korchnoi. Korchnoi wasn't playing matches anymore because Korchnoi was old. But when Korchnoi was 50, he was top 5 in the world. Now if you're 50, nobody heard of you, right? Well, she wasn't the top in the world. What 48-year-old person is top 10 in the world still? He's 48. Anand. He was world champion 5 times. Is he 50? No. When he's 50, he won't be top 10. He's 48, and he's like number 10, maybe. Unclear. Okay, he'll be 49 by the time this video is shown. Okay, anyway, so Korchnoi was great. You see how long his Wikipedia article is? He died in 2016. He was supposed to play me in 2011, but we never played. Korchnoi defeated 9 world champions. Did he play them? Did he beat them in Germany? Maybe. 9? Yeah, your brother will explain that joke. And then Korchnoi wrote all these books. You guys didn't do anything, right? There's a very funny video on the internet, which they don't list here, I'm serious, where Korchnoi's playing a cow. Yeah, you can't make that stuff up. It's a commercial for milk. It's like, got milk? He's playing a cow. Yeah, I could probably show you, but that would take seconds. Okay, but it's true. It wasn't shown in the US, it was shown in Europe. Okay, so let's get to the games. Korchnoi's played thousands of games, and I had to pick a few to show you, so it wasn't easy. Okay, first game I want to show you is against Efim Geller. Yeah, you can see that. Geller is another player who was one of the best players who ever lived who wasn't world champion. I'll tell you how good Geller was, because you look confused. You've heard of Bobby Fischer?
Yep.
Usually we just assume they have, but in this class, 50-50. He looks like, he's like, what are you talking about, right? He doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's got nothing. Heard of Fischer?
No.
No, ridiculous.
No?
Yeah, your sister's like, what are you talking about? Even your sister's shocked. Have you heard of the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer? Have you seen that movie?
No.
What, have you heard of it? No?
I've heard the movie.
That was up for an Academy Award. It was a chess movie about a little kid who I used to crush. Okay. Anyway, Geller had a good score against Fischer. Geller had more wins than losses against Fischer. So Geller was pretty good. Okay. Now, a reason I like this game is that they played an opening that I play. It's a Sicilian. And I've had black in this position many times. Many times. This position. Okay? And when I have black in this position, I play knight takes knight. Okay? And Geller played a move I've never seen before. Probably because this game was played in 1954. So that shows me, right? Okay, he played e5, a move I tell my students never to play. Because now the knight can go to d5 later. And if the pawn was on e6, I don't think the knight's going to d5 later. Okay? And you're like, I don't care if the knight goes to d5 because you have a funny voice. But actually, that was the winning move later. So, okay, then he pinned the knight. And he messed the pawns up. See how they're messed up? But now I have an open file to your king. And this king looks pretty safe. Usually when you castle opposite sides, you're playing for checkmate. This looks like white might checkmate black, but black won't checkmate white. Luckily, our hero's white. If it was a Geller lecture, I wouldn't show you this game. Okay, knight d4. He takes the pawn, and he plays rook g1. This is an amazing move. That's the most amazing move ever. That's a move I would never consider because it walks into a fork. Look at that move. He attacks everything. Is Korchnoi crazy or crazy like a fox? The answer is Fox News.
Yeah.
Now, when Korchnoi plays queen f2, he's unleashing the latent potential on the queen. See that? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's attacking the knight. So Korchnoi was lucky. No. Okay, so queen b6, and the idea is, if you take the queen, I'll take back, and if you take the knight, I'll take the rook. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he played bishop e3, attacking the queen, attacking the knight. So black played knight d4. And now, white's got nice open files to black's king. Rook takes d4, exclamation point. Great move. And now he's got his bishop, and he's got his rook, and he's got his queen. He's going to play e5 attacking the knight. Here comes this knight. Here comes the bishop. And black's like, hey, my rook is safe over here doing nothing. Okay. Obviously, black has to save his queen. Okay. Knight d5. Now, if you take that knight, this move looks annoying, right? Yeah, so he's not doing that. Okay. So he played knight e8, retreating. Queen g3, threatening this a lot. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so he doesn't want to get checkmated. He goes f6, never play f6. Bishop c4, uh-oh. That doesn't look good for black, does it? So he moves his king away. Oh, he played rook f7. I thought he played king h8. King h8 wouldn't work because my knight could go to g6. Let me give you an example. I'll just make up a variation. Check, checkmate. Did you like my variation?
No,
I did, if I was white. Okay, so Geller didn't like that. So Geller played rook f7, knight f4. Now, scared. Okay. Bishop d6, pinning the knight. Takes. And now the longest check you've ever seen, confusing the audience.
Queen b3 check.
Yeah. See how you're in check because I said so? Also, remember that rook is still safe. That's good. If king f8, that might win your queen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you play king e7. Now everybody on earth would either play queen e6 check or queen b7 check. Because that looks good. Korchnoi played an amazing move, confusing all the children and the adult.
95.
Amazing move. But that's why I'm lecturing on Korchnoi and not on you. Bishop f6. That's the greatest move ever. Obviously, if you don't take the bishop, you're going to get in trouble, right? If you take the bishop, you're going to get in more trouble. That's checkmate. You agree?
Yeah.
If you take with the pawn, you open up this line for the rook. So now I have checkmate in 2 moves. Man, Korchnoi was lucky. Lucky he was just so good. So after bishop f6 check, black gave up. Black's like, wait a minute. I'm either getting checkmated or he's going to take my queen. I don't like those options. Okay, so Geller resigned. Korchnoi was really good. This was in 1954. And in like 2004, he beat Caruana. So he was beating the best players in the world for 50 years, right? What school did he go to, Archer?
Old school.
Old school, yeah. But not this game. This game he was young school. Yeah. Okay, so that was a good game. He showed him. Okay, now you heard of Anatoly Karpov because you said his name. So you've heard of him. He beat Karpov in 19 moves. Karpov was world champion for 10 years. Yeah. And then Korchnoi is like, excuse me while I beat you immediately. Okay, now this is a very famous game, not because of the moves. I'll show you why it's famous, and then you'll laugh. Okay, so they played some kind of Queen's Indian. Boring. Okay. Boring. Now, if you play knight takes knight, checkmate's good for white. Right?
Yep.
Do you think Karpov got checkmated on move 11? I don't think so.
Just that 2 moves.
So he played g6. Now it's hard to jump over the... Yeah, right? Okay. Queen d2. And then he sacrificed his knight. You see how he sacrificed it? Now if you go here, he'll check. You'll go here, right? Yeah, and then he'll go check, confusing you. See how confused you are? See how the pawn's pinned?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Karpov didn't like that. So Karpov played rook e8. Roar, threatening this again. Remember that threat I just showed you?
Yeah.
And Karpov's like, I'm going to defend that with the knight. Now he's threatening checkmate. So he took the knight. Now he's threatening the queen because I said so. If the queen moves away, let's move it away. Possibly black's king will get checkmated. And when I say possibly, I mean definitely. You see how black's getting checkmated?
Yeah.
Karpov didn't want to get checkmated, so he took the bishop. And then he took this bishop. Most of you would take back, and then you would cry after that move.
No.
You wouldn't cry after that f3? I'd be like, I'm up a queen, I'm winning. And after I'm like, oh, I'm losing. So I'd cry. Okay. Now, this is very funny.
Yeah.
Korchnoi went up to the arbiter and said, can I castle?
What?
Yeah.
Why?
See how the rook's attacked?
Oh.
Can you castle?
Yeah.
Let's vote. You vote yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he did. One time, before everybody was born, including you, way before you were born, yeah, I had a knight on f7. I was white, attacking the rook on h8, and my opponent castled. And I was like, oh, and I lost that game. I didn't see that. I was like attacking his rook, and he castled. All right, now this bishop's attacked because I said so. So he took. and then f4. And Karpov said, why am I down a queen? Notice that black's down a queen. So Karpov resigned. Now, what a lot of people do, I call those people silly. You might agree with them though. Maybe you think they're not silly. They wouldn't resign because it's move 19. If it was move 40, they'd resign, but they're like embarrassed. Like, how'd you do? I lost in 10 moves. I lost in 5 moves. So you're like, oh, I lost, but it was like a long game. Then they move their eyes back and forth, right? I lost a game in 10 moves once. I could have just not resigned and played in move 30, but I don't care about that. Okay, so Karpov resigned, and his friends might have said, how'd you do? And he said, I forgot. Now, I lost in 19 moves. I'm the world champion. Okay. Now, Karpov wasn't the world champion during this game. Who was the world champion? In 1974.
That's a long time.
Yeah, Bobby Fischer. He didn't play chess anymore. It's crazy. Okay. Now, speaking of Bobby Fischer, also known as Robert James Fischer, Korchnoi beat him in 1962 when Fischer was 19 years old. Now, let's do trivia. This game was played in 1962, because I said so.
Yeah.
Who did Fischer play in 1963? The answer is, he was related to me.
Oh, your dad.
My dad. Fischer Feingold, 1963. This is Fischer Korchnoi, 1962. That's not fair, he learned. Okay. So they played a very complicated opening, and in this position, Fischer played a really weird move. Every grandmaster plays bishop to d3. Fischer played bishop e2. I don't know that move. Okay, and this is all sort of known. The bishop's on d3 usually. And usually with the bishop on d3, this position has occurred many times. White plays queen e2, and then bishop e3 attacking the queen. Well, I can't play queen e2 now. So he played knight d2, which is weird, and then he attacked the queen. But they're playing on the queen's side, and white's supposed to play on the king's side. So playing this is weird. Okay, but he's playing on the king's side, g4. Okay, and when this game was played, Matt Larson was watching, even though he wouldn't be born for 30 years. Okay, now, this is the most complicated tactical sequence you've ever seen. Confusing the audience. Right. This pawn is attacked twice, because I said so. It's also defended twice, right? However, this queen's also defending this pawn. This pawn's defending this knight. So Korchnoi took that pawn. And after takes, white's up a piece. But Korchnoi played this and said, I'm attacking this, and I'm attacking this. And Fischer said, no talking. Knight b5, stopping queen takes knight. Takes. Material is confusing. Black has a rook and 2 pawns for 2 knights. What's better, a rook and 2 pawns or 2 knights? The answer is, it depends. In this position, since the white king, all the pawns are missing, black's king has a lot of pawns in front of it, and this knight on a1, possibly not the best square. Black's better. Queen c6, rawr. Scary, right? Queen c4, threatening the rook. Did you see that? You better see that. Yeah. Queen takes a4, threatening the knight. Threatening both knights. Yeah. And now black's up material. Black's up a lot of material. And this, actually, the end of the game I don't understand. I'm going to ask my engine, because I'm very confused. Okay, in this position, black's up like 700 pawns, and black's queening his a pawn. Okay, so, right. And he played this move, and I don't understand that move. So I'm going to be really embarrassed here. I don't understand why you can't take with the bishop. I saw queen a1 check, but then queen here wins, and pawn here wins, and bishop here wins. So rook g3 is a very strange move to me. But Korchnoi won in style. He took with the queen. And the idea is, if you take my queen, I got another queen over here, right? So that's not good for white. So I don't understand rook g3, because it seems to me that both captures win. So why did he do that? So let me see if I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Yeah, bishop takes g3 is plus 23. So I don't understand rook g3. Like, it seems like resigning is better. Yeah, that move doesn't make any sense. So I was right. Everybody's crazy but me. Okay. But he took with the queen because that's funnier. And then white resigned. Obviously, black's winning because the computer says so, right? Yeah. All right. And then Fischer became world champion 10 years later, and Korchnoi never became world champion. The truth hurts, right? Although Fischer died at the age of 64, and Korchnoi was about 84. So he showed him. He was born before him and died after him. Okay. And then this guy was a grandmaster, which you never heard of him. But this is the kind of opening you guys should like. It's a king's gambit. White sacrificed his king. It's a king's gambit. And also, he did sacrifice his king. I'm not even kidding. Man, his king got in trouble. In the king's gambit, often both sides attack the king. In this case, Korchnoi checkmated his opponent. Okay, what move is the king's gambit?
F4.
F4. And Korchnoi said, give me that pawn. Rawr. Rawr, I want to be a pawn up. Okay, and he was a pawn up. Now he's not a pawn up. Okay, and the game's really crazy. Black moves a different piece every move. I like that, right? So notice, black has all his pieces out. Yay, good job. And also he's obviously threatening this, and frankly. Okay, and then he played knight takes e4, not protecting his knight, because white's king is very suspicious, right? And the engine says king f1 is better. King d1 is a mistake. Then black's up a pawn, and black's winning, although he took a free bishop. Must be free, right? What's better, taking a free bishop or getting mated? Man, truth hurts. Yeah, mated is tough. So white's king isn't very good. Maybe he should castle later.
No.
That's
No.
not even castle-like.
Yeah, but you gotta do something. The king's no good. Yeah. Okay, he saved his queen. Knight takes c2, threatening the rook. And then queen g4 check, and the truth hurts.
The only
So that
one
game,
is
yeah, well, queen e2. That game, black's king was really, really safe, and white's king was not. Right? Yeah. The king's gambit's like that. It's really exciting. That's why Morphy has so many great wins. People don't play the king's gambit now because they're chicken. Right? And I'm a vegan, so I can't do that. Huh. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only grandmaster who occasionally plays the king's gambit is Nigel Short. And he's running for FIDE president, so that's crazy. Okay. Last but not least is this game with Werner Hug. And this game I'm only showing you the end of the game, not the whole game. Werner Hug was one of the best players in Switzerland, and then Korchnoi defected to Switzerland. So now Korchnoi's the best player. Okay? And this position looks really boring. And then it didn't look really boring. Then it got really exciting. See how boring this is? Pawn structure is the same, everything's the same. Okay, and in this position, Korchnoi played b4 attacking the knight, because I said so. Okay, and Hug made the losing move, I think. He played knight e4. Now, everybody's overworked. And this is actually very funny. It doesn't look like black's going to play queen takes f2 anytime soon, because that square is protected 3 times by the king, the rook, and the knight. However, in 2 moves, he plays queen takes f2 check. He gets rid of all the defense, because this knight can be captured, and this rook is defending this rook. So, you see what I'm saying here? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he took the knight, and now you can't take back because you'll lose your bishop. But he didn't care. He took the bishop. And he's like, material's equal, and I'm threatening 2 things. Also, I'm threatening this.
Rook takes c8.
But rook takes c1.
Or c1.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if this happened, he'd cry like a grandmaster. Let's say he takes this. There's the easy winning move, and there's the brilliant winning move. The easy winning move is this. Mate. But the brilliant winning move, because there's a crowd, is this.
Oh.
The truth hurts. And then you have to go here and you get mated. Possibly black's better.
What about rook takes c8 as a defense after knight takes e4?
That would make more sense to me. Although, I guess I could take your bishop on g5, and I've won 2 pieces for a rook. Knight takes g5?
Seems better.
Yeah. So knight e4 is just a blunder, I guess, yeah? Yeah. Okay. So he played rook takes, queen takes, king here. Now, maybe he saw this, I don't know. I'm not Werner Hug. And he said, well, I'm down a pawn, but I'm threatening this, and I'm threatening this, and I'm threatening this, and I'm threatening this. So maybe Hug saw this and said, so what? Like, what's the problem? Okay, now there's a back rank weakness. Queen f1 is mate, except there's a rook here. That means the rook better not leave. So Korchnoi played rook c1 and said, I have an idea, why don't you leave? So I can play queen f1 mate. So for example, if you trade rooks and take my knight for free, then checkmate. Probably Hug saw this and didn't see rook c8. And he's like, oh, wait a minute, I can't take all those pieces, I'm getting mated. Obviously, you can't allow rook takes rook. Okay. So he played queen to d1. And now, white's threatening the knight, and maybe later I'll take this bishop. So maybe it's trickier than everybody thought. Okay. Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook. And now, bishop c6. You can't take the bishop because of mate, which I already showed you, right? Okay. Man, but this is looking tough over here. This white king's looking sort of scared, right? Scary. Okay. And he played bishop takes b4, and Korchnoi played the greatest move you've ever seen ever. Probably just start crying if I show you. And Hug resigned. Wow, this is a really good move to finish the game. I was very impressed. In fact, material's equal here. So anybody could be better. But black made a move and white gave up. It's the greatest tactical move ever. Now, if we take the bishop off the board, see how I did that? Right? Then knight takes g3 is checkmate. Because it is. They look a little confused. Yeah. That means this bishop probably should move off this diagonal. That bishop's protecting something off the diagonal. What's that bishop protecting?
The king.
Right, but what else? It's protecting something that can be captured, but the bishop's protecting it. Yeah?
Pawn on e2.
The pawn on e2. So he took it. That's what you would have done. Right.
I'm not smart.
Okay, now, black's threatening queen takes bishop. If you take the knight, probably you get checkmated, right? So the only move that makes any sense is, well, you can also take the bishop, and it's the same mate. I keep showing you that mate. So taking the queen makes sense, right? Now we're going to double, triple, quadruple discover check you. Double check, you agree?
Yeah.
There's one legal move.
King G1.
Huh?
Yeah.
Check, and wins your queen. And then black's probably winning, right? Because up a knight for nothing. Yeah. So queen takes e2, didn't see that coming. And then the engine says black wins, right? The engine's like, yay, I won black, +7. Ow. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. So I think Hug saw some of that. He's like, I'm the best player in Switzerland. And Korchnoi's like, not anymore. Defect. Rawr. Now, some people complain. Let me give you an example. In the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, the best players in the United States were people born in the United States. Then, in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, people moved all over the world. Before, you couldn't move. They were like, no, you can't leave. Rawr. Then they were like, all right, you can leave. So now, if you took the top 20 players in the United States, probably most of them weren't born in the U.S. If you took the top 20 women in the U.S., none of them were born in the U.S. No, none of them. There was a U.S. Women's Championship about 3 years ago. None of the women were born in the U.S. None of them. None of them. Yeah, they move here, they like the U.S., and they're good at chess. So, right? Okay, so Korchnoi is moving to Switzerland, and Switzerland's like, what? The guy's like, I'm the best player in Switzerland. He's like, I'm moving to Switzerland, not anymore. And they're like, yay, our team is good now, right? So then when they go to the chess Olympiad, Korchnoi's board won instead of Doofus, right? So now they can actually win some matches. People complain about that, but that's great. Now, who's the best player in the U.S.? Probably Caruana, right? He was born in the U.S. The second best and third best player in the U.S., they weren't born in the U.S. Nakamura was born like in Okinawa on an Air Force base or something, and Wesley So was born in the Philippines, right? And the fourth best player in the U.S., when this comes out, is going to be the Cuban player, Dominguez. He's changing federation. He's about 2740 FIDE. He's about number 30 in the world. He's going to play for the U.S. in the next Olympiad. Yay. He lives in Miami, but he plays for Cuba, but not for long. Now he's going to play for the U.S. Hooray for us. And then Sam Shankland was born in the U.S., right? Were you born in the U.S.?
What?
Yeah, you.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, see?
But I'm not a good player.
Yeah, but if you were, they'd say, hey, you weren't born in the U.S. And you're like, oh, guess when I was one, what do you want? Right? You heard of Irina Krush? She's been the last woman in the U.S. for 20 years. No? You? Where was she born? Ukraine. So she was like 2, she moved here. So she learned chess here. So anyway, with people moving all around the world, some players weren't born in your country, but your country's the best. Yay, right? Yeah, you agree with that. Yeah. I was born in the U.S., so I'm no good. Right? Something like that. America. Yeah, when I have the thing. Yeah. So anyway, Korchnoi played for the Soviet Union, then he didn't like them, and he went to another country. And then they were like, what? You can't do that. I'm mad. Rawr, etc. Plus tax, right? Yeah. So Viktor Korchnoi, many people think the best player to never become world champion, but he was this close. When he played Karpov one match, it was 5-5, and whoever won the next game won the championship, but it wasn't Korchnoi. And Korchnoi, unlike a lot of grandmasters, was actually very good in his 60s and 70s. Other grandmasters don't play because they lose and they get embarrassed. Like Michael Jordan. Heard of him? Say no.
Yeah.
You have? Yeah, Michael Jordan tried to play again after he retired. Ugh, horrible, right? Yeah. Do you see a lot of players in the NBA when they're 40? No, because they're no good. Now, they might be okay, but they're not as good as they used to be, so it's embarrassing. If you're the best player in basketball, and then when you're 40, you're the 95th best player in basketball, you're like, what? I want to be 95th best, I want to be the best, right? So Anand was number 1 or 2 or 3 for like 15 years. Now he's number 10. In 5 years, he'll be number 50. So the question is, will he keep playing or say, I don't want to be number 50? You want to be number 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, I was number 1, I'll be number 50. God, horrible, right?
I'd be like number 2 million.
Yeah, Korchnoi didn't care. Korchnoi was number 2 in the world, and then when he was in his 70s, he was, like me. And he's like, whatever, I like playing chess. Yeah. Some people don't like that. They don't want to be the best in the world and they're no good. Like Tiger Woods. Right? Right? Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Serena Williams. Excuse me. Yeah. What? No, nothing? Nah. Terrible. Yeah. She withdrew yesterday. She offered to withdraw. Yeah. She said, oh, I'm in pain. Yeah. What school did she go to?
Who?
Serena Williams.
Oh.
Old school. Yeah. She's the best woman in the world, but now she's old, so tired. Yeah. Also had a baby 6 months ago. Or for you, 2 years ago. All right. Now you can go across the hall and play chess and beat everybody and talk about Korchnoi, but no complaining. I'll explain that joke later. Class dismissed.